Um, I was going to introduce Jack. He may be helping us out a little bit in the coordinating committee. He is a singer, songwriter, storyteller from Miami who has been inspired by Bill McKibben, probably like many of us. And that's why he's in third act. And Jeremy, did you want to introduce Jack?
Well, I think, Jack, why don't you introduce yourself? Where are you, Jack?
Hi, Jeremy. Hi, everyone. I am based in Los Angeles, and I am Third Act's Digital's production manager, which is a somewhat fancy way of saying that I think about visual storytelling, photo and video for nationwide campaigns and also supporting working groups with that same work. So I've been doing this for about 6 months with Third Act, so I'm still fairly new. I think I recognize a
And
few
you're not old
faces,
enough,
but
Jack. You're just not old enough. I'm sorry. You're just going to have to at least paint your beard a little bit so that we know that you're part of our group. Anyway, keep
You
going.
Yeah.
know, it's just been in the last maybe 6 months where I've started looking in the mirror and saying I don't recognize this face. I'm beginning that journey right now, and I don't like it so far. So I'm trying
Uh,
to.
You should be saying
Yeah,
you love it because we're in it.
it gets better.
I need advice. I need advice as to how to. I mean, I went bald when I was 23, so that helped. So I got some preparation there.
Whereabouts in LA are you located, Jack?
I'm located near downtown in Pico Union.
All right.
That's right. Are you in LA as well?
I am in well, Malibu.
Oh,
So
great.
yeah, LA County.
Oh, great.
I'm at Beverly and Robertson next to Cedars.
Literally next to Cedar, Sherry.
Yep, across the street.
Wow.
Wow.
So, Jack, tell us a little bit about your training to be able to be this kind of advisor in the world of the digital.
Absolutely, yes. And then, I mean, my background is I've been a filmmaker, video editor, photographer for 15 years. Started out in Chicago. Actually, I started out in theater in Chicago, but I got into video production in Chicago as a young person, and then moved to LA 13 years ago and have worked in television, have worked in marketing, branded content, and around the time COVID hit, my heart grew 3 times. I no longer wanted to work selling pickup trucks, and I started working with mission-driven organizations, thinking about narrative, thinking about storytelling, thinking about how, I could use the tools that I had as a filmmaker and a photographer to advance the kind of world I wanted to live in. And eventually that led me to meeting folks at Third Act and starting this work. But yeah, I've been doing this for about 15 years from a film and photography perspective. And I got invited today. I mean, I'd be very curious to hear what Third Act Creatives is up to because I got invited today. I know there are some video projects on the horizon or testimonial projects on the horizon, which I'd love to hear more about as well.
Well, as one of the facilitators here, and Ed and I can both speak to this, but the the challenge of this particular group of people is that we're all over the place. Yes, there are a couple of us are here in Los Angeles, but our groups are, or this particular working group is all over the nation because artists are everywhere. They're not just in one space. So getting us together and getting us to sort of participate together as a group, in contrast to, for example, other groups like the faith-based group or the educators, even though they're spread, they've been able to actually sometimes organize because of their commonality. But we've got people who are graphic artists, who are video artists, who are actors, who are writers, who are textile makers. I mean, it's just a very, very wide range of talents. We do have a sort of chart that has all our members' names and all their talents. And what's good, in fact, we were just learning this just a couple of days ago, is that a number of people are looking for, like, someone to do some graphic artists and someone to do music. Music is the one area where we've been very successful. Warren's not here right now, but in organizing and putting out these podcasts, of which there have been lots of them, and we wanted to get more and more people in Third Act to be able to be aware of them and to see them and listen to them because they're terrific. But what happens every now and then, and it's been happening a little bit more recently, which is good, is somebody's looking for somebody to do something locally. Is there someone who is from the creatives who in fact is local, who could help them either making some posters, it was just recently, or actually playing some music at a group meeting that's happening. So that does happen. And we are still into the process of seeing how we can activate all of our members, besides obviously doing everything that Third Act is already doing, but potentially activate them more in terms of quote, the creators themselves. And one of the things we're investigating, because you just mentioned this, Jack, about videos, is we're investigating the idea of asking each of us in this group to potentially make a self-video, a selfie, in which they talk about two things: advice they've been given and advice they give, and a short little piece that could be, a minute or 2 minutes at the most, because we want to limit it, and see what comes out of that. And if there's something that can be done collectively, if people actually participate. This is something we were just thinking about initiating, even as we're talking right now. In fact, I think, Linda, I've got right about some of those questions, or was there something else that we also were thinking of asking? But anyway, that's one of the projects that we were about to send out to our working group to see if they participate, and see who wants to sort of a play, as it were. Let's see, Linda.
That's super helpful. Yeah.
I think I just lost Linda. I'm looking for her here.
Can I ask a question?
Oh yeah, Haley, you got your hand up, please. Absolutely. Hi,
Thank you. I
Haley.
appreciate it. So in addition to my Third Act work, and I just got off a lawyers coordinating committee meeting a little while ago, I do a lot of local. I try to like scale my environmental work, like local and also
Oops, you've frozen as well. Haley,
state,
if you
national,
can
whatever. The thing I,
Haley, repeat what you just said because you froze for a second.
oh, sorry. Yeah, it says my internet. Okay, I'm gonna go off video because I
Go,
I'm traveling. I think the internet's not great.
gotcha.
Okay. Uh, to cut to the chase, in all of my environmental and sort of anti-bullying, like democracy work, um, this keeps being a point of pain that the people who are coordinating my experiences, including me, we don't know how to make the good video and content that everybody's screaming for. So even when I hear, and this is like all due respect to everybody on the call, when I hear, oh, we want to do a short video of 1 to 2 minutes, I'm like, I think maybe we want to learn to do things in 10 seconds, and I'm not sure we know what the best content is. And I'm just like really hungering. The reason I signed on to this call was to hear what Jack would tell us to do. We can decide to do it or not, rather than us saying we would like to do a 2 minute video and we think that's short. Like, I don't think so.
It's
So
not,
I would,
you're absolutely right, Haley, not in the TikTok world. 15 seconds is a lot, even 10, as you just mentioned. But yes,
yeah,
Jack is going to share with us some learning that we can do.
yeah.
That's why he.
That would be great because I can't tell you how many times people turn to me and the people on our our board doing our local environmental work, they're like, you just need to get active on social media and you need to be posting and you need to make it engaging and you need to, and then they start reeling off all these things that we don't know how to do. So
Got it.
I'm
Well,
hoping that I can learn.
well spoken. What's good is that we are recording this so that even though there may not be many of us here, we will be able to make this available to all of our working members so that they can learn as well.
Yes.
And in fact, Jack, if you're up for it, and thank you, Haley, if you're up for it, maybe we can make you full screen, or what do you need in order to be able
Yes.
to demonstrate what you would want to do
Well,
that?
this is great. I appreciate a little bit of you all giving me some context about where you're at because it helps me do the presentation. But yes, in short, I have uh oh hi, look at that. I'm spotlighted. I didn't realize that I could see myself spotlighted. That's way more intimidating. But uh deep breath. So yeah, so essentially I've been doing a tutorial for working groups. And also if any of y'all are not, I'm hearing some interference in the mic. If anybody can mute, somebody's background is loud. But um, yeah, so for the past 3 months, I've started running this video testimonial tutorial with working groups across Third Act. And to speak to Haley's point for a moment, one of my goals is to give you the tool in your toolbox of feeling very comfortable filming video and taking photo on your phones. That's not quite the same thing as a strategic conversation about the length that does best on the algorithm, about the types of content to choose. To be honest with you, my expertise and what I'm here today to talk about is a little bit more focused on uh, giving you confidence and tools and a toolkit for how to record yourself on video, how to take photos at events, how to think about filming yourself so that your message is best reinforced, how to think about visual storytelling. And so I've done this with, this is the first time I've done it with a working group like the Creatives, where there's probably a much broader range of expertise and knowledge already. This is really designed for anybody in Third Act to be able to walk away with the basic 101 of one, using their phone to record themselves and put videos on social media, and two, the absolute basics of visual storytelling. So that's kind of my goal today, is to kind of go through that. And then it usually takes me about 20 to 25 minutes to go through the slideshow. And then hopefully there's plenty of room for questions at the end. How many, just so I have a little bit of a sense of where everyone is at, how many of you all here are familiar with either the One Third Project or Climate Letters to Loved Ones, some of the videos that we've been doing in the last 6 months or so? I'm seeing some hands going up, I'm seeing some shaking heads. So I'm going to go ahead and share, where is it right here? I'm going to go ahead and share the One Third Project, because also, if anybody in this group, I'm going to make a little plug for this. In fact, more than sharing that link, I'm going to just share my screen and share sound. Here we go. Great. So the One Third Project is a project we launched this year. It was Bill McKibben's brainchild. The idea was that to counter program Trump's 250th anniversary of the founding of the American government, we would ask Americans over the age of 80 to reflect on what they have seen in their being alive for 1/3 of American history. And the idea being specifically to highlight what makes this moment in authoritarianism, this moment in democracy, so unique and critical compared to what they've seen in the past. And for this, we wanted to have third actors in their homes, filming themselves, talking about their own lives. And we wanted to do something that I helped them edit the videos. I put together some of the visuals, but these were entirely made by third actors. And I'd love to just show one of these quickly. to give you a sense of what we're trying to achieve with the deck and presentation I'm about to show you all. So I really love Susan Chandler's. I'm sharing my screen. I think I'm also sharing my audio already, but yell at me if you can't hear this. I'm just going to play this 2-minute video quickly to give you a sense of, what we can do.
All right, you're ready.
Hello, my name is Susan. I'm from Nevada and I'm 82 years old. That means I've been alive for about a third of the 250 years that our country has been a nation. Half my relatives were small farmers. The other half had modest jobs in various Minnesota towns. My father was not there when I was born. He was in the Pacific. I met him for the first time when I was 2 years old and he came home from war. That's a tiny part of my story. I know that you also have a story, one that's completely unique and carries the history of your family, of where they lived, of the jobs they worked, the decisions they made, their joys, their sorrows. I volunteered to do this because I wanted to speak to those of you who voted for Donald Trump and may now be thinking, maybe not, or perhaps definitely not. We turn on the TV every day and see a mess. We have billionaires amassing enormous fortunes and still craving more and more and more. The administration sending ICE agents armed and masked into our neighborhoods, and always Donald Trump desperate to see his name in great golden letters. My guess is that you and your story, your family, do not fit in that golden world. I too had to examine ideas I once held dear. The Vietnam War is a good example. I initially supported it, but the time came when I could not reconcile that support with what I was seeing. Children napalmed, young men exactly my age from my high school coming home in body bags. It took me a while, for sure, to say, I have to change my path. I look back on it as a powerful turning point in my life. I wasn't rejected for my past support of the war. In fact, I was embraced. Life opened up for me. My world became much larger. I think you will have a similar experience.
Great. And so with that, I'm going to move into the slideshow. So just to be, oh, go ahead, Jeremy.
Before you go on, just a quick question. The cutaways to the various other images, the Vietnam images and a couple of the other things, this is something that you or someone else put in her video, right? She did not intercut these images I'm just asking.
Yes. Yes. And so this is, we have a number of different campaigns. Some of them, like this one, we just ask the folks to film and then I help a little bit with the visual storytelling. This is obviously a little more sophisticated than something you could do at home unless you're a video editor. Third Act actually plans in the next year to start doing trainings on how to edit video on phone and computer. We're not quite ready for that yet. So at the moment, it's just, I wanted to show that as kind of like a best case example of what you can do with your phone as far as how it looks and you telling your story. Because frankly, even without the imagery of that I pulled and without some of the editing that I did, Susan's story was incredibly compelling, and I would have stopped on Instagram or TikTok to kind of listen to that. And that's one of the big goals. And we've done this from everything from like a personal campaign like this all the way to in Nevada, they did this opposing data centers. In upstate New York, they're making videos right now debunking some TikTok influencer who's spreading disinformation about solar panels. and solar panel construction. In North Carolina, we're doing one of these trainings, again, to oppose the building of a data center on a historically Black college and university. The point is that by the end of the next 20 minutes or so, and then I'll send you all this PDF, you'll have it, you'll have the ability potentially to create a video-driven campaign like Jeremy, like the campaign you all mentioned earlier, of advice given, advice taken. So with that, I'm going to jump in just so I don't keep doing preambles for the entire time. And again, I want to just name, this is made broadly. Some of you are going to hear stuff you know very well, but I'm going to try to speak in a way that kind of speaks to as broad an audience as possible. So just objectives and intentions real quick. This is something that Simone, our director, creative director, always says, that if a great event happens, no imagery is captured. It's almost as if it didn't happen. You can have a great event and terrible photos. You can also have a not great event and great photos, great images. The images remain to tell the story. I always like to start with this photograph because anybody could have taken this photograph. It's not particularly sophisticated, but if you look at it, the framing of it, the way the crowd goes all the way across the image, the way they're heading right toward us. There's so many compositional elements that convey a power and a drama. And a lot of what I want to talk about today is little ways that you can think about your image in order for your image to convey the story you're trying to tell a little better. And so just a little bit of thoughtfulness around how you're recording yourself. We're going to talk mostly about videos today, so I always like to start with the kind of basic premise, which is that nothing matters more in your making videos for social media than authenticity. Whether you're telling a story of your own life, or you're telling a story about a candidate or a cause, you're doing an endorsement, you're asking people to come to City Hall, what people are drawn toward is intimate, personal, human asks. We are on our phone, yes. And so the thing that actually is going to stop the scroll is not, something generic and shiny. It is something that is like startlingly human, is the way I like to think of it. And so a couple of things that really matter are, one is, don't worry about creating an overly beautiful or professionalized or gorgeous video. Something that looks like you made it actually can be very compelling, as long as it has, as long as, you're not, if you kind of film like this, it gets a little dark and creepy. So you try to still have something that's, compelling, but you don't have to worry about an over polish. And one of the biggest parts about over polish is actually what people prepare to speak. One of the biggest pieces of advice I can give is not a technical piece of advice. It's that I know everyone on this call cares deeply about the messages they want to convey, but scripting video testimonials in advance can often lead you awry because then you end up reading on camera, and there's nothing worse than watching somebody read on camera. The second worst thing to watching somebody read on camera is watching somebody nervous on camera. So the two main things one can do to film a great video are to create bullet points or some kind of quick little reference sheet so you kind of know all the points you want to say. And then really relieve yourself of the pressure of saying it perfectly, because the most important thing is you're being present and confident and happy on that screen. And the best way to be present and confident is to speak from the heart and not be extremely nervous about, I might miss something, I might say something wrong, I might get a factoid wrong, etc. And finally, look into the lens. I think, as you can see on the left here, direct eye contact. I feel as though you're looking at me when you look right down the lens of a camera. Some very, very basic things. Consider your platform. If you're posting on Facebook, if you're posting on TikTok, if you're posting on Instagram, vertical orientation is best. It crushes me to say this. I was a partisan for horizontal frames my entire career. But if you're filming on your phone and you're posting on your phone, you want to just kind of accept that a vertical orientation, which means, the kind of tall frame is the way you're going to want to film. Saving videos and photos in the highest quality format is one of the trickiest things to do. At Third Act, we receive videos all the time that have been compressed. I'm sure on text chains you've seen the same thing. You've taken a photo or somebody else has, and suddenly it's grainy, it's small. Something has compressed this video or this photo. So we're going to talk a little bit about just best practices technically for saving photos and videos in the highest quality format. Overall piece of advice that I always advise is all of our phones have these digital zooms where you can kind of infinitely zoom in. It makes you feel very powerful, like you can film something very, very far away. If at all possible, avoid using digital zooms for anything that you're filming, because what that is it's essentially just blowing up the pixels. It makes the image softer, more pixelated, more compressed looking. It degrades the image. It's not a true zoom. Some people have phones, most people have phones at this point that have 2 to 3 lenses on the back. Those are optical zooms, and that optical zoom reflects actually the glass and mechanics zooming in. When you start doing the thing where you pinch, that is a digital zoom, that is a fake zoom. That zoom degrades the quality of your image. So try moving closer rather than using that zoom. Again, we'll get to this more later. Sharing photos, you really want to use AirDrop, or you want to plug your computer into a laptop and transfer the videos there with a USB cable. You want to avoid texting photos if possible, photo and video if possible, and you also want to avoid using certain built-in mail apps. Gmail works fine, but other built-in mail apps on your phone will automatically compress videos. So just something to keep in mind. And then finally, this is actually one of the mistakes that I make the most frequently is clean your camera lens. If I were to wipe my thumb across my lens right now, I'd get that blurry little fingerprint. It's always on my phone. I'm sure what you just saw was blurry. So before you film anything, especially on your phone, wipe your lens. It's profoundly upsetting to film for a couple hours, get a lot of stuff you think is great, and then see a big thumbprint right in the middle of your image. So we're going to talk a little bit about the kind of basic units of visual storytelling, portraits, camera placement, and location. This all has to do with filming testimonials. So for instance, if you all do a campaign where you talk about advice that was given to you and advice that you'd like to give, this next section is going to be kind of the most relevant. This is for how to talk to the camera for direct-to-camera testimonial video. So we're going to start with video portraits. Video portraits have the subject facing the camera directly. Their impact is very human-centered. When you're setting up your frame, and by the way, when you talk about setting up a frame, that can be anything from holding the camera in front of your face like this to asking a friend, a neighbor, a spouse, a loved one, whoever, to film you, or it can be getting one of those little iPhone tripods. No strong recommendation there. When I talk about setting up a frame, however you can do it is how you should do it. Keep in mind the simple rule of thirds, which is essentially that compositions look better with some element of being divided into thirds. Both of these images, actually, the eyes are a little low. There's a little bit of extra headroom, but typically you want your eyes hitting about 2/3 up in the frame. One of the things I like about both of the images we see here, on the right, we have Nancy. Her face is exactly kind of centered in the middle. The top third is dominated by what she loves, which is plants and the sun. And the bottom third is dominated by some third act iconography, which I also love, because we're advancing third act. So it's more compelling to look at. You can see there's a kind of a natural beauty to it. You also want to center the subject as far as, you don't have a lot of room to your left or right, but the worst thing you could have is have, a third of Nancy's face cut off or something like that. So you center yourself in the frame left to right, and then try to have your eyes about 2/3 up in the frame. That's usually a classic great composition. Think about the foreground and background as well. This is one of the most important things to really think about as far as your storytelling goes. Again, Nancy, her persona, this on the right, is solar Nancy. And so everything she's talking about is the power of the sun. That's reinforced by her background. She's naturally telling the story of what matters to her because of where she's sitting and what's behind her. Similarly, foreground, what's in front of her. In this case, we've got, again, the Third Act logo. I work for Third Act, so I have to be a little bit of a propagandist. I love that the Third Act logo is in this video. So just ask yourself the question, where I'm filming myself, does it reinforce the story that I'm telling? On a simple level. We're going to talk briefly about some camera placements tips. The best practice, this was taught to me 15 years ago by a director of photography who went on to win the Oscar for Nora. So thank you to Drew Daniels for telling me this when I was 23 years old and before he was very famous. But the best practice to film somebody in an interview is to place the camera lens right below the eye, but not looking up, not looking down, just straight on and right below the eye. It creates a sense of intimacy. It makes you feel like you're in the same room as the person. The reason you don't want to do a high or low angle, I think I demonstrated this earlier, is that they can sometimes be fairly unflattering. This is not a particularly flattering way to look at me. So you want the angle to be straight, and you want it to be ideally right below the eye so you feel like you're there in with the person. Again, think about centering the subject. I just want to reinforce that. And then this one actually comes up quite a bit. Make sure that your phone, when you're filming, if you're filming on your phone, make sure the lens is up here, not down here. Similarly, if you're filming horizontally, make sure the lens is always on the top, never on the bottom. Wonderful. I'm going to keep moving on. And like I said, there's going to be time for questions at the end, and you'll receive this PDF. So if anything is going too fast, we can revisit. So location, location, location. While the subject draws the eye and the human element transmits emotion, it's the location that really captures the energy and the importance. So again, I want you to ask, how can the location add to the feeling or message you want to convey? These are two images from our Climate Letters to Loved Ones videos. These videos were Third Act members writing letters to their children, grandchildren, loved ones about why they advocate for the climate. And so in both of these cases, we asked folks to film in their home offices where they spend most of their time, where they do their work. You can see a little bit of children's artwork behind the man on the right. You can see, the beautiful plant, the red wall, which really expresses the woman on the left's personality. Again, just wherever you are, it tells a story in and of itself. The mise en scene, to use the film studies term, tells the story as much as what you're saying. I want to give you kind of a simple tips about lighting. Exposure just refers to the overall light level of an image. I think it's pretty easy for most of you all to tell what is over and what is underexposed. What's a little bit more trickier is the difference between backlighting and front lighting. And the reason I love this photo is it happened by accident, but it's a perfect demonstration of how good front lighting looks and how backlighting can kind of wash somebody out. So the man on the left, he's brighter than his background. He's receiving most of his light source from the front, and he stands out from the background. His face is very clear. His eyes are very clear. You feel very connected to him. The man on the right, he didn't do anything wrong. He's standing in front of a big blown out window. His skin looks desaturated. His face looks a little flat. His eyes are a little hard to see. The lighting behind him is so dominating the image that even though he's bright, you're not drawn toward his face. And so when you're filming, and people break these rules, but they break them creatively. When you're filming, consider the fact that maybe the best place to stand is not with your big window behind you, but perhaps it's with your face facing your large window, so you're receiving all of that natural, flat, even lighting. Especially on a cloudy day, I think the best way to film anywhere is on I think somebody called cloudy days God's soft light filter. That it's the most beautiful soft light filter on earth is indirect sunlight. So especially because none of you are going to be using professional lighting equipment. You're not going to be setting up 3-point lighting. You're not going to be shining a lamp at yourself like it's an interrogation. Make use of spaces that have lots of natural light and don't have hard light, so there's no creation of hard shadows. A little bit of phone advice as far as lighting goes. This is iPhone. Apologies to Android or the other one. Apologies to non-iPhone users. But when you're in the camera app, there's a few things that you can consider. One of them is if you can look at this image on the left, if you have an image that has a lot of variety between lights and shadows, tapping on the part of the image you want to be properly exposed usually works. So I wanted to be able to see this star hanging in a bright sunny window. Had I tapped the trees behind the image, those would have been brighter, and the star would have been totally dark because it would have been it would be kind of considered like this shadow image in front of it. But because I wanted to focus on the star, it lifts the lighting, it lifts the shadows. So use the tap to kind of properly expose. Um, Similarly, this is kind of a general piece of advice. Uh, you want to, if you're taking photos, especially if you're taking photos that you are going to add to a video or you're taking photos that you want to share on social media or at an event, make sure that your flash and your live are both turned off. The reason to turn off live photos is because they take up just a tremendous amount of space. The reason to turn off the flash is because even when it gets a little dark outside, your camera is going to start trying really hard to overexpose the image, turn on the flash. You want to have a little bit more control over that. So I recommend anytime you're taking a lot of photos, make sure your flash and your live are both disabled. Um, let's see. This kind of is reiterating what I said on the last page. This slide is actually a little outdated, but similar thing. You know, you can tap the part of your image you want to be properly exposed. That will also set the focus. And so if you have an image where there's you want to, if you have, if for any reason you're not in focus, a simple tap on the screen is how you both focus and expose. I'm going to go on to something slightly more complicated, which is that I know most of you don't have editing ability or much editing ability, but often for these videos, sometimes a little supplemental video or supplemental imagery is nice. And so I'm going to just kind of talk through some of the basic things you can think about. And this is actually true for video and photo. For photo, it's even better because everyone can share 10 photos on an Instagram carousel or share a slideshow on Facebook. So for those of you who don't care or know anything about video editing or don't think you'll be involved in a project where that combines clips, this is still useful for anybody thinking about just how to cover anything from a performance to a protest to a get out the vote campaign to a knocking campaign, whatever it may be. So let's talk about events, B-roll, and detail shots. First, let's talk about filming at actions and events. I just want to kind of remind folks again, this is location part two. What are the core visual elements of that represent the mission of the event you're holding? I chose two images that I think anybody could take. They're not particularly sophisticated images, but they each tell, to my mind, a very clear story. On the right, you've got to get out the vote campaign. Simplest thing in the world. Just the thought about make sure that the framing tells the story without any words. I know immediately this is about getting out the vote. I know immediately, and if, you know, for those of you who were around during Deborah's age, I know immediately this is kind of third act leadership, getting out the vote. On the left, this is simpler. To me, this is just an image that conveys a crowd that is big enough that it goes on beyond the horizon of the frame. One of the biggest problems with crowd shots usually is that crowds look smaller on iPhones than they do in real life. The reason for that, if anybody wants to get technical, is phones have wide lenses which expose the gaps between people. Telephoto or longer lenses are typically used to compress depth and make crowds look bigger. So when you're on your phone, you have to find kind of unique ways to try to capture the density of a crowd. This photo, by centering two people right in the middle and then having a crowd kind of stretching endlessly toward the horizon, this is a very simple visual technique to convey the size or maybe even exaggerate the size of an event, which is okay. We can slightly exaggerate the size of our events. Similarly, B-roll. B-roll is a kind of just, again, a technical term for the additional footage you can film that helps illustrate either the video testimonial or photo testimonial you're taking. So when you're at an event or you're at your own home, whatever it may be, think about visually what kind of matters to you. And I picked these three images. The one on the left is was a video of somebody talking about why she volunteers at all for Third Act, and she talks a lot about how some of her most precious moments are tending her garden at home. And so, something as simple as kind of a little shot of her hand tending a garden. On the right, you've got a Southern California member talking about spending time with his dog. And again, these kind of simple human things help us. It's not just about feeling the politics, feeling the ideology. We're trying to feel the human. Like, why are, the old song, 1, 2, 3, what are we fighting for? Right. I mean, it's what are you fighting for has as much to do with like the words in the bill as it does the person you are in the life that you live. Finally, detail shots. Detail shots are essentially close-ups. These are ways of seeing the world that the human eye doesn't usually see. And so one of the reasons detail shots are so effective is if you're inundated through the scroll, if you're inundated through looking at Instagram or TikTok all day long, most of what you're seeing is kind of medium wide shots of people. Right? It's just face, 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 whatever. The detail shot presents a view of the world that the human eye doesn't naturally see. You're usually not getting up this close to somebody's shirt and looking at their button. And so it not only allows for the details of, say, in this case, these are mostly kind of iconography of Third Act. It not only allows for the details to kind of enforce the story of what happened, it also allows for a certain type of visual that stops the scroll and that says like, hey, this is something different. This is a different way. And this is a different way of seeing. This is a different way of looking. This is a slide that we've been talking about a little bit lately, which is kind of, this is less about a testimonial. This is more about when you are planning an event, at an event, thinking about capturing an event. The most important thing that you can do to improve the quality of your videos and your photos is simply to plan in advance and make a shot list. I've always encouraged folks since I've started here at Third Act is anytime you're heading, whether it's a performance, whether it's a campaign speak or whatever it may be, if your job is to capture some photos of an event and share it on social media or share it with Third Act, set yourself a goal of getting 5 shots that you love. And think of them as 5 different shots. Like, for instance, we've taught, I want to get one crowd shot. I want to get one selfie. I want to get one detail shot. I want to get one posed portrait of people. Think in advance of 5 shots that you think would capture the event based on what you know about it, and try to anticipate the moments to capture. I go back to that briefly. I'm just going to go back to this photo at the beginning and say this photo's power is all in anticipation. Somebody got here in advance. This wasn't an accident. They ran ahead of the crowd, turned around, centered themselves, got the shot. Anticipation, as opposed to reaction, is one of the great ways that you can kind of create stronger imagery for your social media posts. And I'm going to do this one quickly because this is, again, something that you're going to have. This PDF has a smartphone 101. The smartphones change the layout of the camera settings all the time. Every 6 months, this becomes completely outdated because the tech oligarchy has decided that they don't want to leave their menu alone and that they want to disorient all of us. So this is only briefly useful, but for the moment, I just want to point out the fact that within this PDF, we have a few instructions. One of them is, again, for iPhone users. How do you take the highest quality photo? One thing iPhone has started doing, which is extremely frustrating, is if you get a new iPhone, it automatically sets your photos to something called high efficiency mode. I don't know if any of you have seen this where you get an HEIC file instead of a JPEG. And then suddenly, like your friends without Apple computers can't open it, and it's this kind of weirdly crushed image. This is how you get rid of that. So, in your iPhone, there's instructions for opening the camera app, going down to formats, and turning off high efficiency and turning on most compatible. If there's one thing I would ask everybody to do if they ever take photos for events or third act, it is to do this. This is one of the worst things that iPhone has ever done to people, and it makes the ability to share photos extremely difficult because HEIC, the efficiency mode on the Apple iPhone, is owned by Apple, which means that it's not readable by non-Apple machines. So I'm not going to go into all of these details because, again, you have this, but we also go into the photo mode, 24 megapixels. You can have kind of higher level depths of color. That's usually what that affects the most. Similarly with video. If you're shooting video day to day, it doesn't really matter how high quality it is. These are for you. You don't want to, use all your storage on your phone. But if you're shooting video for something like a testimonial that you're going to want to put online or you're going to want to kind of share with Third Act, these are, and there's versions of this in Google and Android, I'll show at the end as well. These are your ideal settings. Most importantly is turning on 4K at 24 frames per second. That does eat up data quite quickly. If that is something that you can't handle, 1080p at 30 frames is the second best choice. 1080 at 30 is the second best choice. Always make sure enhanced stabilization is on, and always make sure that lock camera is on. There are steps to make sure of that in your iPhone here. This is for shooting video in particular. Let's see. Okay, wait, this slide got moved earlier. That's why we got confused. So we already looked at this slide about tapping the part of the image to change exposure. And then yeah, so then this is on lens length. So we had mentioned this earlier, but again, I just want to kind of
Jack, I think you skipped a slide. I think. Go back
Oh,
one.
no, we
Yeah.
did this slide earlier. This was my fault. I duplicated these slides. So I had covered this slide 10 minutes ago or so. This is the don't use the flash and don't use the
Right.
live
Yep.
photography
Yeah.
bits. Thank you, though. Keep me honest. So lens length, this is something I'll just show you. Most of you probably are somewhat familiar with this. On my camera app, I have 0.5, 1 time, and 2 time as 3 options for zoom length. Probably most of you have some version of this. Those all correspond to actual focal lengths that your phone is capable of. My phone's a little older, so my 2 times is actually a fake digital 2 times, but oh well, you can look at me. So look at that. Generally speaking, you're going to want to use just the 1x camera for all of your selfie filming, for all of your normal filming. I would encourage all of you to experiment with the wide angle, with the 0.5. I chose this image of trees. It's nothing, particularly mind-blowing, but again, the 0.5 actually allows for a fisheye lens. It creates distortion, like a kind of curving distortion at the edge of the lens, and it ends up creating photos that are a little bit more unique, novel, draw the eye. So I would just experiment all of you to play around with these lens lengths, but again, avoid digital zoom if at all possible. Here is a page that I won't go through that gives you the basic steps of how to change your Galaxy if you have a Galaxy. And again, you will have this PDF. And similarly, here is a page that shows you how to make sure your photos and videos are highest resolution for your Google Pixel. Again, you'll have this PDF, so you don't have to scurry to write this down right now. Instructions there. And then that concludes my quick and dirty 101 how to take better photos and video presentation. And thankfully, we've got a solid 10 minutes for questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now
First of
and
all,
hop back in.
Jack, thank you very much for this. It's good that there'll be a PDF, and it's also good that we recorded this because you're explaining things are going to help those people who want a little more information than looking at the PDF. So
Yes.
we appreciate it. Let's open this up to anybody who may or may not have a question from those people who are still here. And if Alfredo and Haley, I realize, and Jeffrey, I know you're not image, but you can unmute yourself if you have a question to ask. I will ask one thing. Is every now and then, if you're shooting something, your camera may decide that it wants to, like the background behind me, wants to put that in focus rather than the person. Can you give some advice about that? Because that does happen, as you know.
Yes. So, two things I would say. One of them is to never, when you're doing something like this, never use portrait mode, because portrait mode is an artificial blurring that exaggerates the background foreground blurring. It creates a fake depth of field. The point of this is to kind of cheaply, with artificial intelligence, recreate what like cinematic or more expensive lenses will do. But so first one is turn off portrait mode for this kind of thing, because portrait mode exacerbates all of this. The second one is, I mentioned it only briefly, but in the PDF, there's a mention of turning on or off autofocus lock, which is one of the options in your camera. What autofocus lock does is it basically says, I'm going to tell you what's in focus. Do not change that, even if you think you should. Do not do your thinking for me. And so I'll make sure that that's clear in the PDF, but autofocus lock is what you want to address there. If it ever happens anyway, tap the thing that you want in focus and it'll refocus for you.
When you say tap the thing, we're talking about the little yellow square that you will see on your screen on your camera.
Exactly. So if I'm, let's see, wait, hold on. So if I'm here and I really want, I'm gonna try to do it here. Can I do it?
Close.
Yeah, you see what I'm getting at. Yeah, you can tap anywhere. Oh yeah, you see that? So when the yellow box happens that says this should be in focus, this should be lit for. Whereas if I look up at my window, you see that suddenly the window's in focus, but I'm kind of dark. So it changes both exposure and focus.
The other question is that, and this may be getting a little more sophisticated, but that when you look at the yellow square, to the right of the yellow square, there is a vertical line. That vertical line allows you, and again, this gets a little more sophisticated, but allows you to either brighten or darken what you're about to take a picture of. So
yes,
a little more control than just, here it is, I'm taking this picture. Oh, it does feel a little bit too bright. Can I do anything about it? That little vertical line next to that yellow box that you see when you tap, you can actually drag that down a little bit. It'll make things darker, or you can drag it up a little bit. It'll make things. But
that's right.
It's a little more sophisticated, and maybe that's not something we need to explain to people here. But
I'm glad that you said it, though. Yeah. And similarly, I will just say that when you go into, I'll just show a photo of my partner and my dog.